swear guys, it's a game changer. If you like pasta, fresh pasta is 10 times better. It's so delicious, the texture is different, and you're gonna love it. So without further ado, let's jump into the ingredients. For today's recipe, we're gonna need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 full eggs and 6 egg yolks, a pinch of salt, and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. As you can see, you only need a few ingredients for this recipe, and they're probably ingredients that you already have at home. So let's start making the pasta. The first thing we're gonna do is divide our eggs. 2 full eggs and 6 egg yolks. So I'm gonna start by cracking my 2 full eggs into a bowl. And now I'm gonna get my yolks. Each person have a different technique on how to get the yolks from your eggs, but what I like to do is put the egg in my hand and just shake it a little bit to let the egg white fall into the bowl, and then just grab my egg yolk. I find that that's the easier way for me. Crack it open, and then with your hand, grab the yolk and shake it a little bit to let all the white fall off, and you'll be left with just the yolk in your hand. I'm gonna put it in my plate where my other 2 full eggs are, and continue to do the same with my other eggs. I know this might look like a lot of eggs, but believe me, this is what we need to make the perfect fresh pasta. So my eggs are ready to go, and we won't be using the egg whites, so you can just keep them in your fridge and use them tomorrow for a nice breakfast. Next step will be to grab a pinch of salt and add it to our flour. And now I'm just gonna mix it. We're gonna be making our pasta in my KitchenAid mixer, but if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer like this, you can also do this by hand. First thing we're gonna do is to add our flour into our bowl. Then we're gonna add our egg and egg yolks. And lastly, our olive oil. To start making our dough, we're gonna use the flat beater, which is this one over here. So I have all my ingredients in my bowl, and we're gonna start beating on a speed number 1 for about 30 seconds. You'll see that your ingredients are starting to get all combined, so now we're gonna beat on a speed number 2 for another 30 seconds. As you can see, our ingredients are all combined now, and the next step will be to switch to the dough hook. So you're gonna have some dough stick to your beater. Just remove it because we're obviously gonna use that. And now that we changed to our dough hook, we're gonna beat in a speed 1 for 1 minute. Just so you know guys, depending on the size of your eggs, your dough might be a little bit more liquidy. If that's the case, just add a little bit more flour. And if you see it looks crumbly, that means it's dry. So you can just add a little bit of water to fix that problem. Once you see that your dough is starting to stick to the hook, we're gonna turn it up to a speed number 2 and beat it for another minute. So it's been 1 minute, and I'm gonna check on my dough. So as you can see, there is a ball of dough forming in the hook, and that means it's ready. So our dough is done beating, and what we're gonna do now is grab some flour and spread it on our work surface. We're doing this because we're gonna grab our dough and put it onto here, and we don't want it to stick to the counter. So I'm gonna grab my dough, and I will really recommend you to flour your hands before we do that. Again, we don't want the dough to stick to our hands nor the counter. So just grab your dough. There's some dough on the bottom of the bowl as well, so I'm gonna grab that too. So I have my bowl of dough, and we're gonna start folding it for about 2 minutes because we want it to make it even a little bit more stretchy. So grab your bowl of dough and stretch it and bring it back and fold it. And we're gonna do that for 2 minutes. So we have our beautiful dough right here, and to make sure that we're done kneading it, you're gonna poke it And if your dough springs back, that means it's ready, just like this one. So now we're just gonna wrap this in plastic wrap. And we're doing this because we're gonna let it refrigerate for 30 minutes to up to an hour, and we don't want it to create a crust on the dough. So our dough is refrigerating, and I just wanted to tell you guys that leaving the dough rest is really important because it will relax the gluten, and therefore when we are flattening our dough to make the pasta, it will be easier. If the gluten is not relaxed, once you start flattening, it will start coming back and shrinking the pasta. So our dough has refrigerated for about 30 minutes, and now we're gonna start rolling it and cutting it to pasta. We're gonna take it out of our wrap, and again, always make sure to flour your surface before putting your dough. And take it out of your wrap. And now we're gonna cut it into 4 pieces. Sprinkle a little bit of flour on it and cut it into 4. Just like that. And we're gonna start with one of our pieces first, and the ones that we're not rolling right now, we're gonna keep them in our wrap so we don't have a crusty dough later on. And just set it aside. So we're gonna start by attaching our dough roller, which is the piece that is gonna help us flatten our dough. So we have our piece of dough, and what we're gonna do is flatten it with our hands just to help it go through the machine. So just like this, a little bit, nothing crazy. And make sure that it is always floured. Once we flatten it with our hands, we're gonna start running it through the machine. So we're gonna set our roller on number 1, which is the thickest of our settings. And now we're gonna run this through on setting number 1 and speed number 1 as well. You're gonna place your dough through the machine and grab it with your hand really gently. You have to feel the dough in the machine so your dough does not break. So pull it gently and push it really gently at the same time. Once we've run it for the first time on setting number 1, we're gonna flour it both sides again and fold it. And we're gonna run it through 10 to 12 more times, flouring it and folding it every single time we run it through the machine. So we have run it through our machine about 12 times now on setting 1, and the next step will be to change your setting to setting number 2. Then flour your dough, both sides, and we're gonna run it through setting number 2 on a speed 1 4 times without folding it or flouring it anymore. So setting number 2, speed 1, and same process. Grab it from the bottom, pull it through really gently and grab it. No more folding or flouring it, remember. Once we run it through setting number 2, this is how your dough should look. As you can see, it's a little bit thinner, but it's still pretty thick to make our pasta. Today we're making fettuccine. Therefore, we're gonna be running our dough till setting number 5. The setting you will choose depends on the noodle you will be making. If you're not sure which setting you have to use, just check your manual and it will tell you which setting to use for each type of noodle. So, flour your dough, both sides again, you know the drill. And we're gonna run it 1 time each till we get to setting number 5. So now we're gonna run it through number 3, 4, and 5 on a speed number 1. Switch it to number 4. As you can see, each time you run it through the machine, it starts getting thinner and thinner. And last one, number 5. So this is what you should be left with. A beautiful long pasta sheet. Next step will be to put it into your flat surface. I know it's long. And we'll cut it into sections. That will determine the length of your noodles. So for this one, I'm just gonna cut it in 3. And I have my 3 pieces. Next step will be to cut the edges of your pasta sheets just to make sure that you have a flat edge. Just like that. Next step will be to switch to your pasta cutter. I switched to my pasta cutter and we're gonna grab our pasta sheet and turn on our machine to speed number 1. Now we're gonna run our pasta sheet through it and the noodles will come automatically. So just run it through. And look how beautiful the noodles turn out. Let's do our last sheet. Our first round of noodles is ready, so now you're gonna need a tray where you wanna place your noodles, spray it with some flour, and we're gonna start putting our pasta in here. So just spray a little bit of flour in it, kind of play around with it with your hands. We need to do this so the pasta doesn't stick to each other. Now that I put it into my tray, I'm gonna repeat the same steps with the rest of my dough and we'll come back. So there you have it guys, your homemade fresh pasta. This fettuccine looks amazing and it's gonna taste even better when we cook it. I'm so excited. We're probably gonna have this for dinner tonight and it's just so delicious and also a fun activity to make with your family. If you are planning to eat your pasta right away, you're good to go and you don't have to store it any other way. But if you're not eating it right away, you can store it in your fridge for 1 to 2 days or in the freezer for up to 1 month. And the way you will do that is to place the pasta in a tight sealed container. Now, the way you cook this pasta is different than regular dry pasta. We boil the water, we add some salt, and this pasta cooks way faster than regular pasta. Only put it in the boiling water for about 3 minutes and that's it. Easy peasy. I hope you guys liked the recipe and the video. If you did, don't forget to give me the thumbs up, subscribe down below, turn on the bell notification button, and leave me a comment. If you also want to follow me on my journey, I will be linking my social media down below. Thank you guys for watching and see you guys on the next video.